Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and it's 9.9 patch day today, and I'm going to talk a bit about the things that you're not going to see in the upcoming patch, because I do believe that Wargaming is just continuing this spiral of falling behind its competition because it doesn't believe there are any other competing games that can compete against it. It continually talks about War Thunder poorly. Well, War Thunder isn't the best game, but they talk about Armored Warfare like it's got a litany of problems, even though it's still in like pre-beta stage. So we'll talk a bit about some of the things that Wargaming isn't doing that it should be doing, and primarily one of the things that irks me the most about Wargaming is the amount of revenue they drag in, and the fact that they don't really seem to think that they need to improve their game anymore. And that mostly comes down to the fact that they think that adding HD tanks is somehow adding new content to the game when it's really not. And I mean, it's nice to have an HD tank, but it doesn't make the game any better. Like, it looks a little bit prettier and it looks more like a more modern game, but at the same time, the things that I want to see out of this game aren't just prettier looking tanks. I want to see like real improvements to the game, and one of the biggest improvements I want to see is a complete rebalance in artillery, because I'm not the only one who gets focused out and XVM sniped and Havoc tag sniped, or if I got an extra thing on top of that because I do YouTube videos, but the amount of times I get singled out because of XVM and things like that, it's to the point where it's not fun for me to play the game a lot anymore. And Wargaming doesn't really seem to care at all about anything to do with that. So that's great, that's fine. But at the end of the day, it's pretty much ruining my gameplay experience for when I play the game now. And they don't want to do anything about it. And they don't seem to think that Artie has any problems. And even if they did, like, they don't seem to be doing anything about it. And because artillery for me is useful, and it has its place in clan wars, because you get people that are going to turtle up in like the back corner of the map and never move, and that's when artillery actually becomes a legitimate part of the game. But when you're in randoms, all that happens is artillery says, okay, who are the blue-purple players in the enemy team? They get unfairly focused down and focused out. And with the way that artillery works, like especially with the higher tier ones like the M53s and the gun conks, like the amount of times you can get splashed or hit for like hundreds and thousands of damage, it's just completely unreasonable. And it's not good for the game. It causes players to play extremely passively, and it's just, there's nothing really good to say about it. Like, it honestly feels like a Candy Crush mini game. It doesn't feel like it's part of this game, like a cohesive part of it. It feels like it's just badly implemented, generally in every single way. So artillery would be the first thing that I would take back to the drawing board completely, because it's just a joke as it currently is. And next, one of the things that they've been working on for months, if not years, has been new driving physics. And honestly, like, everyone runs into these problems when they play this game. Like, you'll be sort of close to a rock or the side of a cliff side, and you'll see your tank kind of grind up against something, then it can't move, then you can't pull back, then, you know what I mean? Or you'll go off like the smallest little hump, and the suspension will track both of your tracks in your tank and will kill you and wreck your game. And that sort of stuff takes Wargaming a considerable amount of time to do, and it really shouldn't. Like, the physics test they put out a while ago was actually pretty decent, and honestly, like, they probably could have shipped it with that. Like, they'd probably need to edit some of the maps so that players can't get into places maybe they shouldn't be. But at the same time, it's really, really disappointing that it's taken them this long to try and implement new physics so it actually can compete with games that have decent physics. Like, Battlefield has better driving physics than this game. Armored Warfare, not even fricking Ship yet, has better driving physics than World of Tanks. It's been on the market for like 4 or 5 years now. Like, it's been around for a while, and it's just really frustrating to see that the improvements to the game don't seem to be happening as far as the ground physics go. Like, I can understand some of the Havoc physics stuff because that's completely different. It's buildings, it's things falling apart and colliding, and lots of server side whatever. But It's one of the things that disappoints me the most about World of Tanks. And the next thing that disappoints me about World of Tanks is the fact that most of the crew skills in this game suck. They're useless. And there's a lot of things they could do to make them better and add new ones or edit the ones that are currently there. And it just seems like anything to do with the mechanics of the game, they just kind of think is an afterthought when it's the most important things they could do to change the game and make it a better game. And honestly, like, the only skills I throw on most of my tanks happen to be repairs, smooth ride, sixth sense, and snapshot. Because honestly, the rest of the crew skills in the game are, like, for the most part, kind of useless. I don't use most of them because most of them don't provide any advantage to me when I play. So I would really, really suggest that Wargaming should go back to maybe they need to go play Armored Warfare, because that game actually has a considerably better set of crew skills for all the different tanks, the drivers of the tanks, the crew skills. And it's one of the things I think that could, like, really, really help make the game feel a little bit more customizable and better. And it's a really cheap win. Like, all they would do is need to create a new set of little baby-sized icons. All they would need to do is write up some descriptions for what they do. And honestly, it would not take a lot of time to add some new crew skills to the game that were actually useful and not just a waste of time. And the next thing that I would do to improve the game would be to really look at the performance of the game. And I understand that in this patch of 9.9, the performance of the game is supposed to improve fairly well, but at the same time, we're still running around in an engine that doesn't even recognize multiple cores on your CPU hardly, if at all, and it doesn't take full advantage of your GPUs. It's just it's unfortunate that they seem to think that 50% of their player base isn't worth putting the time and effort into making their game experience better. And the 50% being the European players, the North American players, the people that have spent considerable amounts of money on their computers to try and make their gameplay experience good, when this game looks nowhere near as good as most contemporary video games, yet it runs worse than almost all of them. And it's really disappointing, like, every patch that rolls out, that a lot of the time the performance feels the same or worse than it did last patch. And honestly, the only things that ever look a lot better are the tank models. And a lot of the time the tank models really only look that good in the garage. In game, they really don't look that great compared to their garage rendering. So a little bit more. I don't know if they need a separate dev team. I don't know if they need to take a real step back and look at what their priorities are, but it's one of the things that just really leads me to believe they're taking the half of their player base for granted, and they don't appreciate the other people, the non-Russian speakers that play their game. And the last thing it's just small things. So, like, the last thing that I would like to see is just garage filters, so you can filter your tanks better. Like, really simple stuff that should be in there already. Honestly, stuff that would probably take hours to do, not weeks and months. Like getting names on the mini-map took them way too long, atrocious amount of time. If I wanted to implement that, like names on a mini-map in Pixel Panzers, I could literally have my programmer do that in a day, and he's one man. So yeah, it's just really disappointing there. And another thing I would like to see is the render circle. Like, how hard is it to put the render circle stuff in? Like, there's probably, I don't know if they have 3 programmers on staff now for World of Tanks and everyone else is on ships, or what's going on with it, but it really it stinks. And it stinks of bureaucracy or just ineptitude, or I'm not entirely sure why everything seems to take so long with this crew at Wargaming. And I'm kind of wondering, like what is it going to take to get this stuff in there and through the pipes? Like, I don't know what the answers are really. Like, you want to see a game that you like improve, but they seem to be steadfast in their ability to just underperform every single patch and to not really really try and make the game mechanics and the gameplay of the game better. and they said instead seem to be thinking that they need to put in a different form of anti-aliasing every patch, or new physicality-based rendering, and like having matte paint look more like matte paint, which is great and fine. Like it looks prettier and stuff, but it's not what's going to keep people playing this game. And like fixing artillery, getting better game performance, like that, and better end game type things that's what keeps people playing the game. And for me, I'm just gonna have to. I'm not gonna stop playing World of Tanks. Like the core experience of the game still is fun to me, but a lot of the time lately it's getting ruined by artillery. But at the same time, what I'm going to end up doing is start spending a fair bit more of my time in Armored Warfare when I can play it whenever I can play it, which is because their servers are up over the weekends, like 24/7, and they have the servers open from pretty much like 5 to 10 Pacific time for me, which kind of rolls over the top when Clan Wars goes on. So I'm actually going to probably be prioritizing a little bit more of my time into Armored Warfare and really giving it a good solid look, because they seem to listen. Like, they seem to listen a lot better and a lot more to their community. And like, I've commented on main battle tanks in that game, saying they can't fire on the move and blah, 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 and complaining that they're too much like heavy tanks, and like really slow heavy tanks when they shouldn't be. And they've actually, probably not from my feedback alone or anything, but they have taken into account the fact that, okay, main battle tanks should be able to shoot in the move because people are treating them like sniper tanks. And that's a point I brought up specifically in the last Armored Warfare video I did, when I was driving around on my Soviet tank, and I had to stop, and I had to wait, and I just decided, you know what, I don't have to move. I'm going to be a bunker, I'm going to sit here, and I'm going to snipe at people because I can't shoot on the move, and the aim times are too long, so I'm just going to sit around. But they've actually put out a big changeless thing saying main battle tanks need to be able to shoot on the move better. Maybe not as good as light tanks, maybe not as good as armored fighting vehicles, but it's something we're going to improve in our game, so people will play it, because main battle tanks are the main draw in that game. Like, they are the stars of the game, and past certain levels you're not going to have anything but main battle tanks. There's not a whole lot of tank destroyers and specific vehicles that aren't just main battle tanks. So I just find that Armored Warfare, just already off the bat, seems to be a lot more receptive to feedback and making big, like, swinging changes to their game. And that is easier when you're in beta. You don't have people that are already invested in playing multiple tiers of shitty artillery like from World of Tanks, and people that would be all butthurt and crushed if they changed anything to do with artillery, because they like to sit there, play mini games, click on people, and just ruin the gameplay experience for players that just want to play and not have to hide behind rocks and try and play like passive bitches to try and compensate for the fact that every time they want to pull out, they're going to get clicked on. And honestly, for me, those are my biggest gripes about the game right now, and why I think I'm going to be taking a really big, deeper look at other games. And hopefully maybe there might be a Battlefield game that's more focused on vehicles and not less trying to be a COD clone. So hopefully that sort of thing might happen. And I'm just looking for more from everybody, and I seem to be getting less and less from Wargaming. And it's really, I don't know, patch after patch, I just seem to get more and more let down by the company. But, maybe they can fire a whole bunch of people. Maybe the entire CEO staff needs to get let go. Maybe they all just need to go on vacation. They need to get new developers, and they could really turn the game around. But that's never going to happen. So we'll see. We'll just have to hold out and see what happens. But thanks for listening to my rant about World of Tanks and the competition and what I think they could do in their patches, as opposed to just rolling out more HD tanks that really don't make the game better. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys again soon. And feel free to unsubscribe if you love artillery and you hate my anti-artillery rants. All right, thanks. Bye.